I will say on behalf of a committee that voted for some very specific information from the RCMP, it was quite disappointing, in fact troubling, to receive in Commissioner Lucki's letter what amounts to just a point-blank refusal of information. We heard in the earlier committee of the, as Canada's Grand Inquisitor, the committee of Parliament has unfettered power to request documents. We can have a discussion about the appropriateness, and you touched on that in your remarks, and I look forward to the discussions that we'll have from the parties about that. But just a blanket refusal to a committee is troubling, and we'll get to that, I'm sure, with questions from committees. So with that, I will go to the first round, which will begin with Mr. Bazan.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair, and I want to thank our witnesses for being here, and I thank the RCMP for their work. And you know, I do believe, as us on the Conservative side here, that we want to make sure you guys have the tools to do the job, that you can keep Canadians safe and deal with issues of national security and public safety at all times. But there's also the need to protect the rights of Canadians, the privacy of Canadians, and their charter rights. And there is concerns around the unintended consequences of deploying ODIT, or OTIS as you're calling it, and the potential that those that aren't necessarily being targeted are also being spied on using the technology that you have. There's also been confusion here, because when we actually had the order paper question that was tabled by the RCMP via the Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Public Safety in the House back in June, it talked about 10 or 12 cases that were where OTIS was used. Then in the rather disappointing letter that came from Commissioner Lucki, talks about 32 investigations. And now you're saying it's 49 individuals that were actually spied on. So, the number continues to move, Mr. Larkin, and that is, I think, something that we're all very concerned about, is where does the truth actually lie? And that's why I think we need to have better clarity on the information you have. Now, you talk about that, and we already know that you're not using Pegasus, but you do have a technology. Is it made in Canada, or what's the source, the country of origin of this technology that you're using in your investigations?
Well, thank you so much, Mr. Bison. I just would like to clarify that we actually have deployed 32 applications targeting 49 devices, not 49 individuals. So just a point of clarification. But I will defer to Assistant Commissioner Mark Flynn to discuss the technology and the procurement of such.
So within the RCMP's Technical Investigative Services, there is a process under which they procure all technology. There's an approval process where it's a Director General level approval for both the procurement of the tools and techniques, as well as approving which particular tools and techniques can be utilized by the RCMP in our covert electronic surveillance.
Disclose whether it's Canadian technology, or if it's or the country of origin where you get the technology. If it's not Pegasus, then where does it come from?
So from my perspective in federal policing, I'm not aware of where all the technology comes from that's utilized here, but I can say I have a long-standing history in this, and back in the days from 2002 to 2015, it was all Canadian technology that we were utilizing. But
so this predates what we're talking here, 2017 for OTIS, so you're saying that we've been using this technology since 2012?
I can add some clarification to that, and actually it goes back prior to 2012. And I can add some clarification to that.
Okay, and so we've used this technology, hopefully respecting, I guess, Part 6 of the Criminal Code, that the charter rights have been protected. How often have you used it under national security provisions where you don't have to get warrant? Going back to 2012 or before, like we're talking OTIS, and we're also talking, I believe, it was through your Special Investigation Unit I, right?
So from my involvement, again, back for many years, as well as my current position in national security, we have never utilized this tool without prior judicial authorization. However, having said that, if a situation were to arise that required it, there are provisions that allow us and certain designated individuals to utilize this type of tool for the interception of communications in emergency situations, but I am not aware of any situation where that has been done. And the mere practicality of deploying this type of tool and technique would take it beyond the time period under which such an authorization would be valid.
So when it is a national security issue, or it's an area where it's, somebody like, we had, Canadian Navy former Lieutenant Jeffrey Delisle, and that was back to 2012. Now you're saying that this would have been probably used in that situation, knowing that he was a member of the Canadian Armed Forces, knowing that there may be people of interest within the RCMP. Do you still have to go through the process of getting, warrant to protect the issue, their charter rights in the Criminal Code, Section 6, or can you, on staff, surveil them or use spyware without their knowledge and without the consent of a justice?
Well, I can say that unequivocally that in that case and in any other similar case, we have utilized the prior judicial authorization for doing so, and not obtaining such judicial authorization would be a violation of Part 6 of the Criminal Code, because that is the privacy invasion provisions under the code, and we would not do that. We are a professional organization who operates under the law.
So as a professional organization that's been using this type of spyware since 2012 or sooner, why did it take until it became public information that you never consulted with the Office of the Privacy Commissioner?
So I can speak to, again, a long-standing history in the Special I program. And as we follow through the evolution of the use of this technology, as encryption started to be used by targets that we had judicial authorization to intercept, and we were unable to hear the audio, hear the phone calls, or see the messages that they were sending, that is when we developed the tool and technique to make it possible to intercept those communications. But it's important to note that the privacy invasion isn't coming from the tool utilized. The privacy invasion is coming from capturing that audio, or capturing that text message, or capturing that communication that is occurring between two individuals. Okay. And we have evolved in the use of the tools as individuals evolve in the way they communicate.
First, can the RCMP set up a software on someone's phone without their knowledge?
La GRC est-elle capable de capter?
Can the RCMP capture or listen to a conversation on a cell phone?
With judicial authorization, yes.
Oui, évidemment.
Yes, of course. Can the RCMP see what's on a screen or what can be seen through the camera?
Depending on the device and our capabilities at the time, the answer can be yes.
OK. De consulter.
Can the RCMP can look at contacts, text messages, calendar, the content on the phone?
And with the same caveat, yes.
Parfait, merci beaucoup.
Okay, thanks very much. Now, the Privacy Commissioner this morning and the Minister said that you were fully engaged. Those are the words they used. But even so, before using that software for the first time, did you, yes or no, consult the Privacy Commissioner?
No.
OK, merci beaucoup.
Okay, thanks very much.
Un autre ordre d'idée.
Now, another line of questioning. Commissioner Lucki's letter that we received the other day, it disappointed me too. Our question was very clear. We got a very, very clear answer. We asked whether parliamentarians had been listened to, and the answer we received was the RCMP cannot offer that information. Do you have anything to add to that?
I would just add that when we're speaking about any individual in particular, to ask a question about parliamentarians specifically, it's a challenging question because it's actually putting the authority of the individuals asking in a position to speak to something that they care about. We take the privacy of all Canadians, regardless of the position they hold, to be very important, which is why we put all the protections in place. However, I would add that there are certain sectors, which include parliamentarians, journalists, religious institutions, educational institutions, where we have additional safeguards within our policies and procedures to ensure that a higher level of authority is required if a request is being made or an operational requirement is in place due to the criminal behavior of the individuals involved that fall within those sectors. It requires a higher level of approval. For national security matters, that is my position as the Assistant Commissioner in charge of national security.
Questions?
This Guy's Garage. Like and subscribe.